Elara Miles stared at the screen in disbelief, her fingers frozen above the keyboard. The quiet hum of Aurora's Edge, the small human research station orbiting the green and blue gas giant Orpheon 3, seemed suddenly louder. On the main view screen, a galaxy-wide broadcast was playing, and her own face was plastered across it. The title flashed in enormous, bold letters. Unknown cosmic threat detected. Galactic alert. Elara groaned. She could feel her cheeks heat up as she muttered, "Don't zoom. I look puffy." She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. Just yesterday, she had been peacefully analyzing the energy flare she had discovered near a small cluster of dying stars, documenting its fluctuations and noting how it interacted with surrounding cosmic dust. It was fascinating work, completely harmless. Yet somehow, across the galaxy, millions of beings were now seeing her face as if she were the harbinger of doom. It had all started innocently enough. She had been running simulations and sending her data logs to the local Galactic research network. Somehow, an alien media outlet had intercepted her reports and misinterpreted the patterns of the flare as aggressive energy pulses. Their system, lacking context, had assumed a single humanoid observer. Elara was controlling or generating the flare herself, and the media, in their typical flair for the dramatic, labeled her as a potential cosmic threat. Elara slumped deeper into her chair. She had expected excitement when her discovery went public, but this was not what she had imagined. Across the galaxy, viewers were speculating wildly. Some theorized she had the power to destroy entire star systems, others argued she was a misunderstood genius, and a few were simply curious about her peculiar human expression. She sighed, watching as the camera zoomed closer to her image. She buried her face in her hands and whispered, "Seriously, don't zoom. I literally just woke up." Despite the embarrassment, there was something oddly amusing about the situation. For the first time in her career, Elara realized that humans had become the center of galactic attention, not because of war, conquest, or danger, but because of curiosity and misunderstanding. It was, in a strange way, a compliment. The next few hours were a blur of communication requests, messages, and alien inquiries. The first messages came from small exploratory vessels, politely asking if Elara was indeed capable of controlling the energy flare. They expressed cautious admiration for her apparent control over a phenomenon no one fully understood. Elara stared at the messages, blinking. I can't control it," she muttered aloud. She quickly typed a response, carefully explaining that the flare was a natural event, a rare combination of star decay and cosmic dust interactions. She emphasized that it was entirely harmless. To her surprise, the aliens responded with curiosity rather than hostility. They asked about human observation techniques, theories of star formation, and even about Elara herself. One alien species, known for their bright, reflective exoskeletons, seemed fascinated by her sense of humor, commenting on how odd and charming humans could be. Elara laughed quietly, shaking her head. "Okay, maybe this isn't a total disaster," she thought. As the day progressed, Elara found herself being interviewed live by an alien media crew. She had never imagined speaking before such a diverse audience. Their cameras were sophisticated, floating holo projections that hovered in front of her, adjusting angles automatically. The holo camera zoomed in on her face, and she groaned again. "Really? Don't zoom. I look puffy," she muttered, earning a faint ripple of amusement from the alien crew. They had somehow learned to understand humor, at least partially, and they displayed an approving light pulse along their carapace. Elara cleared her throat and began explaining the energy flare, pointing to visual simulations projected around her. She described the flare's gentle waves, the slow decay of the surrounding star matter, and the formation of tiny, sparkling cosmic dust patterns that resembled miniature galaxies in motion. As she spoke, she noticed something remarkable. The aliens were listening, truly listening. They asked thoughtful questions, debated her interpretations politely, and even suggested collaborations to observe similar phenomena in their own star clusters. By evening, the initial embarrassment faded into fascination. Elara began to see the possibilities of this accidental fame. Humans, she realized, had a unique perspective on curiosity, humor, and scientific observation. While other species might focus on power or efficiency, humans celebrated discovery for the joy it brought. In a galaxy that often measured beings by might or influence, that perspective was unusual, refreshing, and, apparently, very compelling. Elara spent hours crafting replies to messages from various species. One young researcher from a distant planet asked her what humans found most exciting about the stars. She paused, thinking carefully, then wrote back, "We love the unknown. Every star, every flare, every pattern is a story waiting to be understood. We laugh, we wonder, and sometimes we sigh at the sheer beauty of it all. And sometimes we accidentally get labeled as a cosmic threat while doing it." Her humor seemed to resonate. Responses poured in, filled with curiosity and genuine engagement. Some aliens asked her to send more images and data, hoping to learn about the natural energy patterns humans had observed. Others sent cultural questions, intrigued by human expressions, gestures, and jokes. Elara found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. The absurdity of being called a cosmic threat by an entire galaxy was oddly liberating. That night, she gazed out the observation window at Orpheon 3 below. The swirling green and blue gases reflected softly on the glass. She felt a strange sense of pride. Humans, though small and new to interstellar travel, had captured attention not through aggression, but through curiosity, wit, and a willingness to explore. Even if it began with a misunderstanding, it was proof that humans could stand out in the vast galaxy. As she prepared to rest, her communicator pinged again. A polite message arrived from a delegation of aliens proposing a joint observation of the flare over the next few months. They expressed hope that her research could form the foundation of future interstellar collaboration. Elara smiled, realizing that what had started as an embarrassing mislabeling could now become the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. "Don't zoom. I look puffy," she whispered once more, shaking her head at the absurdity. Then she laughed aloud, realizing she no longer cared what the galaxy thought of her appearance. Humans were being noticed, not for aggression or conquest, but for intelligence, curiosity, and humor. That, she thought, was far more powerful than any energy flare. Elara's first day as the galaxy's unknown cosmic threat ended quietly, with a sense of anticipation rather than fear. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but she felt ready. In the vastness of space, where misunderstandings could turn into legends, humans were beginning to carve a place for themselves not with might, but with ingenuity, laughter, and wonder. As the station's lights dimmed and Orpheon 3's swirling atmosphere reflected faintly across the observation deck, Elara whispered to herself with a grin, "Maybe being a threat isn't so bad, after all." She laughed softly and closed her eyes, dreaming not of cosmic destruction, but of endless possibilities. The morning light on Aurora's edge filtered softly through the station's curved observation windows, painting the control room in hues of pale gold and green. Elara Miles sipped her morning tea, staring at the communications panel as messages from across the galaxy continued to pour in. Her inbox was overflowing with questions, greetings, and polite invitations. The aliens were not hostile, they were curious, even fascinated by her, the so-called unknown cosmic threat. Elara rubbed her eyes and chuckled. "I never imagined humans would become the galaxy's celebrities because of a flare," she muttered. Her day had already begun with a message from the reflective exoskeleton species, the Luminar, inviting her to observe a nearby star cluster with them. They had constructed a floating observation platform nearby and wanted her input on analyzing its energy emissions. By mid-morning, a small vessel approached the station, hovering just outside the docking bay. It was sleek and glowing, unlike any human spacecraft she had seen, with smooth curves and shimmering surfaces that reflected the station's lights. A panel opened, projecting a holographic image of the Luminar delegation. Their forms shimmered as they spoke, gestures precise yet somehow expressive. "Greetings, Ilara Miles," one of them said. "We are honored to meet the one labeled as the unknown cosmic threat. We wish to study the flares together and share our observations." Ilara suppressed a grin. "Thank you. But just to be clear, I'm not a threat. I'm just curious," she replied, adjusting her hair and hoping the holo camera didn't zoom in too closely. She added with a small laugh, "Also, I look puffy today, so please be kind with the angles." The Luminar emitted a sound that resembled laughter, or at least their version of it. Their reflections shimmered brightly, indicating amusement. "We will note your appearance for cultural context," one replied. "But we are more interested in your methodology." Ilara spent the next few hours guiding the alien scientists through her observation of the energy flare. She explained how the flare formed from the slow decay of nearby stars, how the cosmic dust responded to magnetic shifts, and how subtle changes in the flare's intensity could reveal patterns about surrounding celestial bodies. The Luminar listened attentively, occasionally asking questions that made her pause and think in new ways. "What about the particles interacting at high frequencies?" one asked. "Do you believe humans have observed similar interactions elsewhere?" "1. Ilara smiled, impressed by the thoughtfulness. "We have, but never with this precision. That's why I've been documenting it carefully. It's rare to have such clear data on multiple flares interacting in real time." End quote. While they worked, Ilara noticed something delightful. The aliens were learning to appreciate not just the data, but the way she described it. She added humor, small observations, and even light sarcasm to her explanations. For example, when one of the Luminar miscalculated a trajectory, she teased, "Well, unless you're planning to hit my station, you're safe." They blinked, then shimmered in what she interpreted as laughter. After the session, Ilara invited the Luminar to explore the human cultural records she had stored. They floated through human music, literature, and artistic simulations. Their eyes, well, the reflective surfaces that functioned as eyes widened at the complexity of human creativity. They asked why humans placed importance on humor and storytelling, and Ilara explained that it was a way to understand life, connect with others, and celebrate the unknown. "You humans are unpredictable," one Luminar said thoughtfully. "You observe, you analyze, yet you also laugh at the smallest things. It is fascinating." Ilara nodded. "We like to find joy even in chaos," she replied, thinking of the galaxy-wide broadcast that had turned her into a headline. "Even if we get labeled as threats, we usually just keep looking, keep wondering, and sometimes keep laughing." By late afternoon, more ships began to arrive. Word had spread about the unknown cosmic threat, and curiosity was at an all-time high. Unlike what Ilara had feared, no one came with weapons or hostile intent. Instead, species from neighboring systems came to observe, to learn, and to interact. Small children, both human and alien, floated near observation decks, asking questions and giggling at the hollow projections of the energy flare. Ilara found herself becoming a teacher, not just a scientist. She showed alien visitors how to analyze star flares using simple observation techniques, letting them experience the wonder of discovery firsthand. She even created small experiments for them, like using reflective surfaces to track light waves or floating sensors to detect tiny energy fluctuations. Laughter and excitement echoed through the station. Despite the chaos of attention, Ilara enjoyed herself. She realized that humans had a rare strength in curiosity, creativity, and humor. Other species might rely on brute strength or advanced technology, but humans could engage, communicate, and connect in ways that were entirely unique. For the first time, she understood why the galaxy seemed so captivated, not because she was dangerous, but because she represented what humans could offer: imagination, insight, and joy. That evening, As the station settled into a gentle hum, Ilara reflected on the day. She had exchanged ideas with scientists from 4 different species, watched children mimic her experiments with wonder, and even received messages of admiration from species who had only glimpsed the broadcast. Humans were being noticed not for aggression, but for curiosity, empathy, and humor. Ilara chuckled softly. "I never thought being Puffy on a holocamera would make humans famous," she said aloud, sipping her tea. The aliens had learned to appreciate her quirks, her humor, and her approach to science, and in doing so, humans were slowly building a reputation in the galaxy for ingenuity and creativity. A ping on her communicator pulled her attention. It was an urgent message from an alien diplomat she had met earlier that day. "Ilara Miles, your work has inspired a proposal. Would you consider a collaborative observation network between human and alien stations? We wish to combine our data and share insights across species." Ilara paused, her mind racing with possibilities. Such a network could revolutionize interstellar science, connecting species not through conflict, but through curiosity and cooperation. She typed back with excitement, "Absolutely. Let's start as soon as possible." As she finished her reply, a young human intern floated into the control room. "Dr. Miles, the Luminar just sent a holo invitation for a joint observation tonight. They're very excited." Ilara smiled. "Of course. Let's show them what humans can do when we explore together." The observation session that night was extraordinary. The combined sensors of human and Luminar equipment created detailed visualizations of the energy flare, revealing subtle patterns no single species had noticed before. Aliens gasped, or the closest approximation of gasping their species could make as waves of cosmic energy shifted in vibrant colors across the holographic display. Humans, too, felt awe, but with a quiet familiarity. They had always known the stars held mysteries, and now others were seeing them too. Ilara guided everyone through the patterns, pointing out small interactions and playful coincidences in the flare. The Luminar, for all their sophistication, seemed fascinated by her narrative approach. She noticed that the younger aliens were mimicking her gestures, laughing when she laughed, and asking questions that were both curious and clever. As the night deepened, Ilara realized that humans were slowly building something remarkable. A reputation not through intimidation, but through curiosity, humor, and connection. The galaxy had initially misunderstood her as a threat. But now, slowly, species across light years were beginning to see the value humans brought. Exhausted but exhilarated, Ilara returned to her private quarters, floating past the observation decks filled with chatter and laughter. She opened her window to watch Orpheon 3 swirl beneath her, the green and blue gases reflecting soft light onto the station. She sighed, a mixture of relief and excitement. "Maybe being called a threat isn't so bad," she whispered, "especially when you're building friendships instead." Before drifting off to sleep, she glanced at the holo communications panel one last time. Messages continued to arrive, filled with questions, data, and invitations for future collaborations. The galaxy was no longer fearful of humans, it was curious, eager, and ready to learn. And Ilara, once an accidental cosmic celebrity, realized she was at the center of a new era for her species. As the station hummed quietly, and Orpheon 3 glowed beneath the stars, Ilara smiled. She had embraced the chaos, the misunderstanding, and even her puffy face on the holo broadcast. Humans, she knew, had a unique gift, the ability to explore, to laugh, and to connect, all at the same time. And in that, they were far more powerful than any energy flare. Ilara Miles floated in the observation chamber of Aurora's Edge, watching the approaching fleet of ships that would take her to the first interstellar science and cultural fair. The station vibrated gently with the movement of the docking vessels. She had never imagined that a misinterpreted energy flare and a galaxy-wide broadcast of her face would lead to this moment. Her heart raced with excitement and nerves. Humans had never attended such an event before, and she was about to represent her species in front of countless other civilizations. The ships were sleek and diverse, reflecting the cultures that had answered her accidental broadcast. Some were polished metal with glowing energy veins, others organic, like living creatures traveling through space. Each carried scientists, explorers, and cultural ambassadors, all curious about humanity. For the first time, Ilara understood the weight of her responsibility. She was not just Dr. Ilara Miles, astrophysicist, she was the face of human curiosity, creativity, and humor. As she docked and stepped onto the platform, she was greeted by a kaleidoscope of beings. Colors, shapes, and forms she had only seen through holo images surrounded her. The air, or its equivalent, was thick with anticipation. Everyone seemed eager to see what humans could bring to the table. Ilara led the group to a central chamber, designed to display the wonders of the galaxy. Holographic displays shimmered with data streams from distant stars, planets, and nebulae. But the humans were not here to impress with sheer power or technical superiority. Ilara had prepared something different, an exhibition of human ingenuity, creativity, and playfulness. She guided the alien visitors to a simulation of the energy flare she had studied. Unlike previous displays, this one included a human perspective, artistic renderings, musical interpretations, and playful visualizations that interpreted the flare as a living phenomenon. As she explained, she wove humor into her descriptions. "Notice how the flare wiggles like it's dancing," she said, pointing to a particular wave. "We like to imagine stars have personalities. Sometimes they're dramatic, sometimes shy." The aliens watched, fascinated. They asked questions not about weaponization or control, but about perspective, creativity, and the human way of interpreting data. Some species tried to replicate the simulations, while others sent children to experiment with the visual patterns. Ilara noticed laughter spreading among the younger beings, the same laughter humans shared when encountering wonder for the first time. Next, she guided them to the cultural section. Here, human music played softly, creating a harmony of sounds that contrasted with the silence of space. Aliens tilted their heads, or the closest equivalent their species had to the melodies, asking questions about rhythm, harmony, and emotion. Ilara explained that humans used music to express feelings, celebrate achievements, and connect with one another. A small delegation of aliens, whose translucent skin shimmered like water, tried to imitate the movements of human musicians. Ilara encouraged them, clapping along, laughing when a gesture went slightly wrong, and gently guiding them toward harmony. "It's not about perfection," she said. "It's about expression and connection." The day passed in a blur of exploration and shared discoveries. Ilara led workshops on observing cosmic phenomena, demonstrating simple yet effective techniques that humans use to study the stars. Aliens of all ages participated, some taking notes, others experimenting with light, energy, and movement. Humor and curiosity flowed freely, creating bonds that transcended language and species. One of the more cautious species, the Syndral, had initially been hesitant to approach humans. Their bioluminescent patterns dimmed slightly whenever they felt uncertain. But as the day went on, they grew fascinated by Ilara's explanations. They asked about the human sense of humor and how it could coexist with serious scientific inquiry. Ilara smiled and replied, "Humans laugh to understand, to connect, and sometimes just to enjoy the moment. We can be serious and playful at the same time. It's how we see the world." By late afternoon, Ilara noticed something remarkable. The other species were not just observing humans, they were learning from them, adapting to human ways of thinking, appreciating the mix of science and imagination. The fair had transformed into a shared celebration of creativity, knowledge, and cultural exchange. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were contributors, innovators, and storytellers. Ilara floated to a quieter area of the chamber and looked at the holographic projections of the energy flare. For the first time, she saw the human touch in a galaxy-wide context. Her earlier embarrassment over being labeled a threat seemed trivial compared to the impact she and her species were having. Aliens across the galaxy were starting to recognize humans as beings capable of originality, empathy, and humor. A group of young aliens approached her, holding small instruments that resembled human musical tools. "Can you show us how to create harmony?" one asked, its voice a gentle series of tones. Elara laughed softly and nodded. She guided them, demonstrating rhythms and encouraging experimentation. As they played together, she realized that humans had a natural ability to teach not through command but through example, participation, and shared joy. Even the adult scientists began to participate. The Luminar asked questions about why humans interpreted patterns emotionally rather than purely analytically. Elara explained that humans often combined observation with imagination, finding stories and meaning where others saw only data. It helps us connect, predict, and create, she said. Sometimes the best discoveries happen when we let curiosity lead and imagination follow. As night approached, the fair culminated in a communal observation session. All species floated in a large, transparent dome, watching a neighboring star cluster pulse with activity. Elara guided the group, pointing out subtle fluctuations in brightness, the dance of cosmic dust, and the formation of new planetary bodies. Aliens leaned closer, listened intently, and shared insights from their own observations. The session became a symphony of data, creativity, and wonder, each species contributing in its unique way. During the final moments, a young human intern nudged Elara. "Dr. Miles, the broadcast crew wants a closing message from you." Elara floated to the center of the dome, looking at the countless eyes and reflective surfaces of the gathered beings. She took a deep breath and smiled. "Today, we have shared knowledge, laughter, and curiosity. Humans are not perfect, and we are not powerful in the ways many beings measure strength. But we explore, we imagine, and we connect. We celebrate discovery not with fear, but with joy. And perhaps together, we can learn more about the universe than any one species could alone." The aliens responded with a wave of light, sound, and energy pulses, a galaxy-wide applause of sorts. Elara's face appeared on holo cameras, her expression calm, confident, and human. For the first time, she realized that being labeled a threat had led to something far more meaningful: respect, collaboration, and genuine curiosity. After the fair ended, Elara returned to Aurora's edge, exhausted but exhilarated. The station felt smaller now, yet infinitely more connected to the galaxy. Messages continued to arrive, full of gratitude, questions, and proposals for future projects. Humans were beginning to form bonds, not through fear or competition, but through understanding and creativity. Elara floated to the observation window, gazing at the glittering stars. She smiled, thinking about how far humans had come in such a short time. A misinterpreted energy flare had accidentally shown the galaxy what humans could do. Their curiosity, humor, and willingness to connect had turned embarrassment into opportunity. She whispered to herself, "Don't zoom. I still look puffy," and laughed softly. But this time, she did not mind. Humans were being seen for who they truly were: explorers, teachers, and creators, capable of inspiring wonder across the stars. Elara leaned back, letting the soft hum of the station lull her into quiet contemplation. The fair had proven something important. Humans did not need to be perfect or intimidating to be remarkable. Their greatest strengths lay in curiosity, imagination, and the ability to connect across differences. In a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, that was a gift more powerful than any energy flare, more lasting than any headline. As the lights of Aurora's edge dimmed and Orpheon 3 rotated slowly beneath her, Elara felt a deep sense of hope. Humans had begun to write their story across the stars, not with weapons or force, but with creativity, kindness, and curiosity. And she, once an accidental cosmic celebrity, was proud to be a small part of it. Floating in silence, she allowed herself a moment of personal amusement. "Maybe being a so-called threat isn't so bad," she murmured, watching the galaxy shimmer with possibilities, "especially when curiosity and laughter are the weapons we wield." And with that, Elara turned back to her console, already thinking of the next project, the next observation, and the next adventure. The galaxy was watching, listening, and learning. And humans, with all their quirks and humor, were ready to show them just how extraordinary they could be. Elara Miles floated quietly in the observation chamber of Aurora's edge, Watching the first light of Orpheon 3 spread across the swirling green and blue gases, the station had grown busier over the past weeks, filled with messages, alien delegations, and the constant flow of curiosity that had transformed her life. Humans were no longer a curiosity by accident. They had begun to carve a place in the galaxy. After the Interstellar Science and Cultural Fair, species from nearby star systems had kept in touch. They sent invitations, requests for collaboration, and expressions of admiration. Alara had become a symbol not because she was powerful, but because humans were uniquely able to connect through curiosity, creativity, and humor. The galaxy had misunderstood her at first, labeling her a threat. But now the story had shifted. Humans were fascinating, inventive, and, above all, approachable. Her day began with a holo message from a young alien scientist. The Luminar, always curious, had sent a detailed diagram of energy patterns in a neighboring star cluster, asking Alara to provide her interpretation. She smiled, floating closer to her console, and began analyzing the data. She realized that human methods of observation, simple, patient, and imaginative, could bring new perspectives even to highly advanced civilizations. As she worked, her thoughts drifted back to the broadcast that had started it all. She remembered the zoomed-in camera, the exaggerated warnings, and the sheer absurdity of it. "Don't zoom. I look puffy," she murmured to herself, smiling at how a trivial concern had led to an opportunity for humans to shine. The galaxy had seen her humor, her humanity, and, through it, had glimpsed what humans as a species could offer. By mid-morning, a small alien ship arrived at the station. It carried researchers from multiple species, all eager to contribute to a combined study of stellar phenomena. Alara welcomed them warmly, guiding them through observation techniques that humans had refined over centuries. She demonstrated how to track subtle energy fluctuations, interpret cosmic dust patterns, and even visualize the emotional story of a star cluster. As humans liked to imagine it, the aliens were fascinated not by raw data alone, but by the way humans combined observation with imagination. Some of them had never considered that studying stars could be playful, inspiring, or emotionally resonant. Alara smiled as she watched them experiment, asking questions, and laughing at unexpected results. She realized that humor and curiosity were as much a part of human exploration as precision and calculation. Throughout the day, more delegations arrived. Some were visiting for the first time, while others were returning to continue collaborations begun at the fair. Alara guided them, facilitated discussions, and helped create shared simulations. By now, humans were no longer seen as outsiders. They were contributors, innovators, and storytellers. Species who had once feared the unknown cosmic threat now sought humans for guidance, insight, and companionship in discovery. In the afternoon, Alara received a special invitation. A coalition of alien civilizations had organized a galaxy-wide showcase of creativity, an event to celebrate interstellar science, art, and culture. Humans were invited as featured participants, a recognition of their unique contributions. Alara floated through the preparations, helping to set up displays that combined scientific observation with human creativity. Holographic art, musical interpretations of cosmic phenomena, and playful simulations of star flares filled the exhibit. Alara demonstrated how humans interpreted energy patterns as dynamic, living systems. Aliens marveled at the creativity and the insight it revealed. She encouraged participants to interact with the displays, experiment with simulations, and ask questions. Laughter and excitement filled the chamber as beings of every form explored the exhibits. By evening, the showcase had drawn crowds from star systems far and wide. Alara's contributions stood out not because they were the most precise, but because they were relatable, imaginative, and joyful. Species were learning from humans, not as superior beings, but as collaborators who valued connection, exploration, and curiosity. A young alien child floated up to her, eyes wide with fascination. "Why do humans make patterns into stories?" it asked. Alara smiled gently. "Because stories help us understand the world and each other. When we see a star flare, We don't just see energy, we see possibilities, surprises, and beauty. We laugh, we imagine, and we connect. That's how humans explore. The child nodded thoughtfully and drifted away, eager to share the lesson with friends. Alara realized that humans were influencing not just scientific understanding but cultural perception across species. Humor, creativity, and curiosity had become a language that transcended biology, physiology, and technology. Later, Alara convened a discussion with adult scientists from multiple civilizations. They shared insights, asked questions, and debated theories. Alara facilitated, guiding the conversation, translating human approaches into concepts that other species could understand. She emphasized patience, creativity, and the joy of discovery, showing that humans approached problems in ways that were unexpected but effective. The discussion ended with mutual excitement and plans for future collaboration. The coalition proposed a permanent network of observation stations, linking humans and aliens in a continuous exchange of knowledge. Alara's heart swelled with pride. Humans were no longer misinterpreted. They were partners in exploration, valued for their insight, curiosity, and creativity. As the station quieted that night, Alara floated to the observation window. Orpheon 3 rotated beneath her, its atmosphere shimmering like liquid gemstones. The galaxy beyond was vast, filled with stars, planets, and civilizations. Humans had begun to carve their place in that expanse not with weapons or power, but with imagination, curiosity, and laughter. Her communicator pinged. A message arrived from a coalition diplomat, thanking her for her contributions and inviting humans to continue participating in interstellar projects. Alara typed a reply, smiling as she added a note of humor. Humans are ready to share curiosity, creativity, and the occasional joke. Please handle with care. She floated back, reflecting on the journey. From a simple observation of a cosmic flare, to a galaxy-wide broadcast mislabeling her as a threat, to the first fair of interstellar science and culture, humans had progressed further than she had ever imagined. The unknown cosmic threat had become a symbol of potential, collaboration, and the human spirit. Alara thought of the children who had laughed and learned at the fair, the alien scientists who had adapted human methods, and the messages of admiration from species across light years. Humans were making a mark not through force, but through insight, creativity, and the joy of discovery. She floated past the observation chamber, watching crews work, communicate, and laugh. Every interaction reminded her that humans had a unique gift: the ability to connect, to teach, and to inspire. It was a gift that transcended biology and technology, reaching hearts and minds across the galaxy. As she prepared to rest, Alara whispered, "Don't zoom. I still look puffy," and laughed softly at herself. But she no longer cared. Humans were no longer just seen, they were appreciated, respected, and celebrated. They had begun to rewrite the story of their species in the galaxy, not through fear, but through curiosity, kindness, and creativity. In the quiet of the station, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and mysteries. Humans had only just begun to explore, to teach, and to connect. Yet already, they had made a difference, building bridges between species and cultures. Alara smiled, imagining the future. Humans would continue to explore, to laugh, to create, and to inspire. They would continue to be curious, asking questions, sharing discoveries, and celebrating the unknown. And as they did, the galaxy would continue to notice, not because humans were threats, but because they were extraordinary. Floating in the soft glow of Orpheon 3, Alara felt a deep sense of peace. She had witnessed the beginning of a new era for humanity, one where curiosity, creativity, and humor were their true power. The accidental fame, the misinterpretation, and even the zoomed-in broadcast of her puffy face had led to something far greater than she could have imagined: respect, collaboration, and the celebration of life across the stars. And with that, She looked toward the horizon, ready for the next adventure, confident that humans would continue to shine, not as threats, but as beacons of imagination, curiosity, and connection. The galaxy had seen them, and it had been delighted. Alara smiled one last time, whispering into the quiet of her station. Maybe being a threat isn't so bad, especially when the threat is curiosity, laughter, and wonder. And as the stars twinkled across the endless expanse, she knew that humans were ready for everything the galaxy had to offer.